Right. Just making sure that the streaming's all set up here and we're all set. Cool. All right, Samuel, thank you for joining us today. How are you?
Doing great. How are you, Guillermo? Thank you for
Doing well. Doing well. To kick things off, do you want to just give a little bit of your background and your role here at Foot Traffic?
Yeah, of course. I am the chief marketing officer here at Foot Traffic. I have a extensive amount of background in the earned, owned, and paid media channels. And I started out actually outside the cannabis space and worked on a number of local and non-local campaigns on the SEO side, and then started transitioning over to paid media into programmatic and broader, more strategic campaigns that encompass pretty much everything from earned to owned to paid. So I do have a really good background and grasp on the entire gambit, but really my cornerstone of my background does come from SEO. And that is where I find the most joy working in as well, just because it's very nuanced. There's a lot of changes that happen, but it's a really great way to dig your teeth into a business and help them grow in a way that doesn't involve dollars in consistently.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that subject then. You love SEO and you love Google. So, what is the relationship between ranking on Google and backlinks?
Yeah, backlinks is a really interesting subject because if you listen to a lot of these forums like Reddit and some others, you'll get a lot of people who are trying to get you to either get a lot of links quickly, which could be detrimental, uh, or you have the other option, which is to do it the slow burn way, which is outbound link communication. That's a lot slower and you don't have guaranteed success. Link building as a whole does make up a really important factor within SEO. You have your on-site content, you have your technical elements of your website. So making sure that you have proper page speeds, making sure that you have the right canonicals in place. And then you have link building. And link building is really the trickiest out of the three to get right. And a lot of negative consequences can happen to your website if you don't get it right.
Okay. And speaking of negative consequences, what are those that can have a negative impact on your business if you do link building wrong?
Yeah, so luckily here at Foot Traffic, we've gotten, not luckily, but we've gotten some clients and some partners who have come from other agencies or have tried to do link building on their own. And generally, what that looks like is they'll go to some site, buy 5,000, 500,000 links, and it looks great for about a week. You'll see a nice little bump in traffic because you have all these great links pointing to you. The real dark side of that is that a lot of those links are not great links. They come from very poor websites within a link farm. And so generally, if you go down that path, you might see an initial bump, but really within a week or two, you start seeing that a lot of that traffic that you gained will start going away. And then in the next month or so, you'll start seeing Google hammering down on your overall website performance. So you start seeing keywords start dropping off that historically you've ranked for. And just the overall trustworthiness of your website, according to Google, will take a big hit. So that's a really, really, really important aspect when you're thinking about link building is what are the long-term consequences of doing it the down and dirty way? And are you willing to risk that in order to maybe have a small improvement in the short term?
I know just with my background in the algorithms of Google and SEO that with these pushes that they make, whether they announce them or not to their algorithms, they have a huge impact on your organic traffic. And I know there's one coming up here pretty soon. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? I know there's a major update coming up in the next 60 days, right?
Yeah. There is one coming up mid-June called the Core Web Vitals update. So this actually plays outside of link building. It's really about UX, UI, page speed, usability for users.
Okay.
It's a really big update, but again, one of those things that falls into that second bucket when it comes to SEO and that technical element.
Okay. And can you tell us what the acronym EAT stands for in the SEO world?
Yeah, so EAT is a really cool acronym if you think about how it applies to not only link building, but your website and your content. So it actually stands for expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. And so what it's really looking at whenever people are using that acronym, they're really looking at when you're creating content, is it coming and being created by somebody who's an expert in the field that you're writing about? The other aspect is that authoritativeness. Does your website have authority behind it? Does it have historically really great content on that same subject matter? And then the last one is trustworthiness. So in essence, page quality. How's the quality of that page? Is it thin? Do you have references on there? Is it really built out? Does it answer questions that people are really curious about? Was it developed just for SEO, or was it developed for the end user? So all of that really plays into content development, but is linked really closely, no pun intended, to link building. So you can use a lot of those same elements for EAT when you're thinking about how to get some really quality links, when you're doing outreach or any of those other tactics for link building within your content. And that content, the quality of that content on a quality website that links back to you, will have exponentially more impact than just a really thin piece of content on the same quality site.
Okay. That's very helpful. And, as a SEO tactic, what is the single most important SEO tactic that everyone can implement today on their own?
I think the very first thing, if you are a local business, is local citations. So local citations are a form of link building that are really streamlined. They don't have a ton of impact in regards to moving the needle from A to Z right away, but it's a really nice hygienic approach to making sure that Google understands your business. And really, you don't have to do a lot of heavy lifting at all. There's a lot of partners like a Moz Local or a Yext that a really low cost subscription monthly. They'll develop everything for you and they'll maintain those links for you. And they're very high quality, and you'll never get into any kind of a tough spot with Google by going through these local citations. So that's the simplest form of link building if you're a local business that you can implement right away, and you can start seeing some increased local visibility for your store.
Wonderful. And in addition to the listing directories and citations, as well as your Google My Business profile, what are other best ways to get backlinks for your dispensary?
I think the most interesting way that I found when it comes to building authoritative backlinks to your website, it's probably been mentioned in a lot of blogs, but is legitimately building a relationship with some website admins. And a lot of that really comes down to what can you give them? And I'm not talking about monetary exchange. What kind of information, what kind of content, what kind of SEO value can you provide to their site that could really boost their visibility? And in return, when you get that link back to you, will boost your visibility. Every link, the way I look at link building is every link that you get from an authoritative site is basically like a double tap on social media. You get that like, and the more likes you get from these big websites, the more authority and the more trust that Google gives you. You start slowly rising up the rankings. And it's a clean way of doing it. You don't run the risk of really encountering any penalties down the line for algorithm updates that maybe Google hasn't invented yet. So it's a longer process, but a really clean process, and in a process that is very impactful for your business if you can kind of get it humming correctly.
Okay. That's wonderful. And when doing this outreach, what should you look for when curating a list of websites to request backlinks from?
I think there's two things in particular. Number one will be, is that website affiliated with your industry in any way? It's really great to get links from websites that have a lot of authority behind them. But if you can get websites that have some sort of a correlation to your business in some way, that's going to be the first thing that I would look for. And the second one is I would actually take that website. It might look great on the surface, right? I would start running it through some tools like Ahrefs, SEMrush, and just start identifying how frequently are they outbound linking? What does their backlink profile look like? Is it toxic? And where does their website tend to get a lot of their keyword visibility from? I think those are really important things to identify up front before you start investing a lot of your time in that outreach phase, which could absolutely take up a little bit more of your bandwidth.
And one thing stood out to me in what you just said, all these things to look for. One thing to look for is toxic links. What does that mean?
So toxic links is a really, really kind of a high level way of saying that you have a lot of, you've at some point in your past, you've done some poor link building. And so what that could mean is that maybe you got some links from a private blog network that has low domain authority. Maybe it's a link farm, or there's just you're getting links from websites that are just notoriously made for building links, right?
Okay.
So what you want to do is just avoid those, because if you do get links from sites like that, you'll eventually have to get them removed anyway, and it just adds another additional few hours of work for your calendar.
Okay, and then when reaching out to these pre-qualified websites, what does your email outreach look like when requesting a backlink?
Yeah, that's the best, the trickiest part of link building. It's getting a reaction. So what you want to do is, one, your headline in your subject line, in your email has to catch that person's attention. And what I tend to do, and what I think works best for us, is we will know relatively the ins and outs of the website from a high level perspective. We'll know if there's maybe something that they might have missed as an admin that might be able to be brought to them as a value add, and kind of highlight that to them, and then start bringing up the fact that, we are giving an introduction about the business, and just open up a line of conversation. Don't even bring up link building during that first communication. Just start kind of like a pen pal communication with this company or this website. And then probably by communication 2 or 3, start bringing up the fact that, there might be a partnership opportunity that we can explore, and then start expanding on that. But that subject line is so important on those email communications, because that's what they're going to see. And that's going to be your make it or break it shot at getting them to engage with you.
Okay. And I know I've read, and I've used this in the past, is, find something wrong with their website and a fix, and just, kind of casually recommend this change to be updated. And if you get a reply, then that's going to be your in to ask for something in return. So there's some tactics there on how to get people to actually open your email. And then second thing is provide some value, right? It's like, you scratch my back, you scratch yours type of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't want to come off as being, you're doing this for everybody, right? People like to know that if they're communicating with somebody, it's someone who actually might potentially be beneficial for their business and actually took the time to look. And so, like you mentioned, if you're able to give them some sort of a value add, something to highlight that they could potentially fix or correct, that might potentially, help them improve in some way, they're just going to be so much more receptive to any other communications you'll have down the line.
Okay. No, thank you for that. And you mentioned, buying, bulk links. Let's say a client asks if they can buy 500 links from a online vendor, and they can expect ranking higher. Can you tell us what the problem with this tactic is?
Yeah, I've been solicited thousands of times now from people who can guarantee me page 1 rankings in 3 weeks if I bought the package. I can say with absolute certainty that it will never work. And the main reason behind that is, when Google looks at your backlink profile, they're not only looking at the number of links, they're not only looking at the number or the authority of those links, they're looking at your domain to backlink ratio, right? So they're looking at how many links are you getting from different websites of high authority. A lot of these websites that you're going to be, or vendors that you might potentially be buying thousands of links from, those links you'll get thousands of links, but they'll be coming from maybe 2 to 3 sites. And what you'll also start noticing is that you'll start getting links on sites like Reddit or, Instagram or whatever it is, those high authoritative sites. But those are not links, they're actually comment spam. So they're leaving comments on people's profiles, leaving comments on subjects that maybe are open in Reddit, and they will link back to you. You get from social media link building virtually no equity of any kind anymore. So all that's really doing is just showing that you are actually working with a bot link service. And that's what you want to avoid when you're building out links. You don't want that to be signaled to Google in any way, because it can have some pretty rough repercussions.
Okay. And then, when talking about these links on third-party sites, are those do follow or no follow links?
So it could be generally when we work with a partner that is aligned with the industry and of high value, we ask for do follow links. But there's nothing wrong with no follow links. No follow links have a bad reputation. The main difference between the two is that you're still going to get the link. Somebody clicks on the link on a no follow link. A user can still go to your site, but you're just limiting the amount of authority that is coming from the link issuer site to your site. And so Google in the past has said that it's okay to have, a small percentage of your backlink portfolio no follow. It's not a big deal. I think it's an okay practice. Now, if you are spending hours and hours working alongside a partner, trying to get a link placed, I always urge you to try to get a do follow link. It's going to help you a lot more. But if you have 5 to 10% of your backlink portfolio no follow, it's not going to have any negative consequences. Now, if you have a 50-50 split, maybe reassess your link building strategy, but there's nothing inherently wrong with no follow links.
And since we've been talking about this subject, like what are no follow links?
Yeah, the main thing is just the website who is giving you that link, they're not going to pass their authority to you. So when Google will crawl your site and they'll see that you have a link from them, it's nice that they see that you have a link. But if, let's say, that website has a authority of like 50 and they're within your industry, you'll get a little bit of a boost if you have a do follow. A no follow, you're just showing Google that you have a relationship with this other website, you've gotten the link and that but all that authority that website has, that trickle down effect of authority, you won't be getting. So that's the main difference between the two.
Got it. And then, how much should a dispensary invest on a monthly basis in SEO so that they can rank higher on Google search?
It's two factors play into it. Whenever I'm looking at websites and identifying where the potential opportunities are, I'll look at one, the competitive landscape in that region, where they're currently standing within that competitive landscape. And then number two, what is the overall health for that website from a technical, content, and link building perspective? Generally, if we're talking about a one location dispensary in a really competitive market, depending on how quickly and how aggressively you want to really move, it really varies between a couple thousand to maybe 7,000, 8,000. And again, that's taking into consideration that we're going to be working on technical improvements, content development, link building of high quality, and making sure that your location, in that case, that singular location, has a lot more visibility than it currently has. So moving up in the SERPs, moving up in the local search landscape, and searches of that nature. So in that range, it's a little difficult to say depending on the market, but I would generally say if you want to be aggressive for a single location and you're in a moderately competitive market, try not to go south of 2,000. If somebody's trying to sell you something at 1,000 or 500, it's probably a really cookie cutter approach. They're not really taking consideration really the opportunities within the competitive market. But as you scale up your investment, just know that more hours are freed up to support that campaign. And those hours will be predominantly invested in content development, website development, or link building.
So you talked about a single location. What about doing SEO for MSOs?
So for MSOs, I recommend, if we're talking, let's say 5 and above, the earmark that I tend to say, and again, varies, so it's case by case, try not to go under 1,000 per location. And you're not going to be investing 1,000 per location. That's just because you want to diversify how you're tactically approaching the website, and it's going to vary per month. But I would say if you have 5 locations, you should not be going under 5,000 a month. Realistically, if you have 5 locations, you should be probably in that $7,000 to $10,000 a month range, because you are trying to grow in different markets simultaneously. But if you can keep that 1,000 per location on an MSO basis as your barometer, I think that's a pretty healthy benchmark for budgets for SEO.
Is there any difference between like brick and mortar and delivery? Should you set aside a separate budget just for delivery?
Yeah, if you are looking at a brick and mortar, you have to approach your delivery campaign completely differently because you have different types of searches. You're also going to have cannibalization on the keyword level. So you do have to start focusing on identifying what's the overlap in your monthly bottom line for in-store versus delivery. How much of your budget do you really want to focus on that delivery portion? But you should really squirrel away and really identify an appropriate budget for delivery that sits in conjunction with your in-store, because you're going to have to approach and build completely different campaigns in order for you to be effective.
Okay. No, that's very helpful. Thank you for taking the time to chat with us today. Once again, Sammer, thank you for always delivering above and beyond in the search realm and providing your insights today. And then if you'd like to learn more, any of our viewers, we do have a webinar called Rank Higher on Google, Cannabis Link Building 101. So if you'd like to take a look at that, we'll post that on our, all our social media channels. And it's also on the webinar section of our website. So that'll just be foottraffic.co/webinars. And you can just search by category and just select SEO from the topic, and you'll see anything that we've created or talked about SEO. So once again, thank you for joining us today, Sammer. Chat with you soon.
Thank you guys. Cheers.